The Faceless Patient of Room 13. It had been raining for 3 straight days, shrouding the little mountain town in a gray, suffocating gloom. That night, the narrow trail leading to Misty Clinic, a long abandoned infirmary at the edge of the valley, lay engulfed in thick darkness. Only the sound of dripping water and the earthy stench of rotting grass remained. No one had dared to go near the clinic since the fire 15 years ago, when the record room mysteriously caught fire at midnight, leaving behind 8 charred, unidentifiable corpses. All documents vanished without a trace. No one knew exactly who the victims were, only stories of screams so loud they echoed through the pine forest. Since then, every child in the town grew up with a single warning: never go near Misty Clinic after the midnight bell. But tonight, Lynn, a local newspaper reporter, walked alone down the slippery trail, clutching her flashlight tightly. She needed to finish her feature article on haunted landmarks before the deadline, and the rumors surrounding the abandoned clinic were a goldmine. She brought her camera, audio recorder, and the only surviving note from the burned files: a nurse's duty sheet dated 12/11/2010, with a single scrawled warning at the top. Room 13, do not open. Lynn kept telling herself, they're just old ghost stories. Take a few pictures and get out. The rusted gate creaked open with a long metallic screech. Her flashlight swept across the lobby, walls mottled with peeling paint, corridors stretching like the throat of a monster. Her footsteps crunched on shattered glass, and each echo seemed to bounce back unnaturally, as if someone were walking in step beside her in the dark. She swallowed hard and turned on the recorder. 11:47 p.m. I'm in the main hallway. The atmosphere is... She paused. A faint noise echoed in the distance, the metallic screech of wheels turning, like a gurney being pushed down a tiled floor. She aimed the light toward the far end of the hallway, where shadows formed an impenetrable black wall. Nothing. The sound ceased. Only the rain tapping broken windows remained. She hurried forward toward the archive room, located on the 2nd floor, right next to room 13. The wooden staircase groaned under her weight. At the landing, she froze. A blackened handprint was smeared across the wall, its fingers grotesquely long, leaving behind a burnt smell like scorched hair. Forcing herself to stay calm, she took a photo and moved on. The 2nd floor corridor was pitch black, save for faint moonlight through shattered windows. The wind rattled loose panes, wailing like distant sobs. Lynn reached the archive room, her palm damp with sweat. She reached for the handle. A voice whispered beside her ear, "Don't open it!" She spun around, flashlight shaking. No one. The wind? Taking a deep breath, she gripped the doorknob. It wouldn't budge. She shoved with her shoulder until it gave way with a groan and a cloud of dust. Inside, rusted shelves lay collapsed, most files reduced to ash. But in the center of the floor sat a single folder, untouched by fire. The label read, "Patient 13, Unknown Identity." She opened it. Inside were a few X-ray images of a human skull, the facial area blacked out, as if gouged. The last page, in a smear of red ink or blood, simply read, "I'm not dead." Lynn's heart raced. She raised her camera. Slam! The door behind her slammed shut. The lock clicked. The flashlight flickered. Footsteps shuffled outside the door, dragging, accompanied by heavy breathing. Lynn banged on the door, screaming, but it wouldn't move. The recorder still ran, and suddenly she heard warped whispers playing back through the speaker. Room 13, open. Her blood turned cold. She hadn't said anything aloud. Then the wall erupted in a thin line of fire, searing across the concrete like a crack. Letters formed in flame. Return the face. Smoke thickened the air. She grabbed the folder and crouched in the corner. The flashlight died. In the darkness, someone laughed. A dry, hoarse laugh right at her ear. Lynn screamed. She pounded the door until, by some miracle, it gave way. She stumbled out, gasping for breath, and froze. At the end of the hall was a mirror, one she hadn't seen before. It was grimy and cracked, its frame rotting. But in the reflection, she didn't see herself. She saw a blood-soaked hospital bed. A burnt body lay twisted upon it, its face wrapped in scorched bandages. And then it moved. In the mirror, the figure sat up, the bandages unraveled. A charred face stared back, skin blistered, one white, pupilless eye wide open. It screamed silently, slamming hands against the glass. The mirror spiderwebbed with cracks, one reaching into Lynn's chest. She dropped the light and ran. But the hallway stretched endlessly. One room after another, no stairs, no exit, just windows filled with flickering shadows. At her feet, a broken sign read, "Way to room 13." She stopped, panting. Ahead was a large iron door marked with a faded charcoal number, 13. From the crack beneath the door, cold black smoke spilled like ink, carrying the murmur of 100 mouths whispering. She turned to run, but the corridor behind her had vanished, replaced by a solid concrete wall. She was trapped. The door pulsed as though something inside were slamming against it. Her hand trembled as she opened it. The hinges shrieked. Inside, a single rusted bed, burnt mattress. All four walls covered in shattered mirrors. Their shards reflected countless twisted shadows. In the center stood a figure wrapped in white bandages, smoldering faintly. It had no face, just a charred void, and across its chest, a perfect handprint burned black, her own. It rose. Every mirror began to hum and shake. Shards floated up, circling Lynn like razors. She screamed. The folder in her hands caught fire, reduced to ash, which was sucked into the faceless void of the creature's head, as if feeding it. "I'm not dead." The words boomed straight into her skull. The mirrors flashed. In every one, Lynn saw not just herself, but the town, the people walking in the rain, her own body burning, screaming. The mirrors closed in. The razor glass traced thin red lines across her wrists. Blood misted the air. The thing stepped forward, one scorched hand pressing against her forehead. At the first stroke of midnight, wind blasted through the room. The fire vanished. When Lynn opened her eyes, she was lying on the floor of room 13, surrounded by broken mirrors. Blood dried on her arms. Her wristwatch was frozen at 000. Her recorder was shattered, but its cracked speaker crackled with static. "Return the face." She staggered out of the room, down the now empty stairs, and disappeared into the night. A week later, the newsroom received a USB drive in an unmarked envelope. Lynn hadn't been seen since that night. The memory card contained only one image, the second-floor corridor with the cracked mirror. In the reflection stood Lynn, but her face was burned, with a large portion missing, and her eyes were milky white. A glitchy QR code was smeared across the image. When scanned, it read only, "I have returned it." Since then, on rainy nights, passersby have reported seeing a girl with a charred face, holding a camera, wandering the streets, peering into mirrors. Always looking, searching for something she's lost. And at Misty Clinic, room 13 remains locked. But every night at midnight, flames lick the doorway, illuminating fresh black letters scorched into the wall. One more face left to return. They say, if you accidentally look into a cracked mirror on a rainy night and see someone else standing beside you, run. Break the glass. Apologize. And whatever you do, never look back. Because the faceless one is waiting until the last shard is found, the last identity stolen, and the vow, "I'm not dead," becomes a fiery, horrifying truth. The Whisper Tree. The villagers called it the Whisper Tree. It stood alone at the edge of Black Hollow Woods, its gnarled trunk twisted like writhing limbs, its bark split open in long, weeping gashes that bled dark sap. No birds ever perched on it. No insects crawled upon it. And even on the hottest days of summer, a ring of cold mist hovered around its roots. They said it spoke at night. Not in any language known to man, but in whispers, low, breathy voices that slithered across the fields and into sleeping houses. Those who heard it too closely changed. Some went mad, some vanished. One boy, 16 and reckless, had tied a red ribbon around the tree's trunk as a dare. They found him 2 days later, hanging by his own intestines in his father's barn, the same red ribbon stuffed into his mouth. So the villagers stopped going near it. They built fences, they warned their children, and they prayed. But of course, someone always comes looking. Her name was Iris. 25, journalist, rational, raised in the city, untouched by superstition. When the editor handed her a folder marked Local Legends Volume 3, Iris had rolled her eyes. She preferred corruption exposés and political scandals, not ghost stories. But her last report had gone sour, and she needed a win. So here she was, standing before the fence, camera in hand, looking at a tree that shouldn't feel so wrong. She climbed over. At first, it was just quiet, eerily so. No chirping, no breeze, no rustling. The kind of silence that rang in your ears like pressure before a storm. She walked around the base of the tree, noting the strange grooves etched deep into the bark, symbols like spirals, open mouths, and claw-like hands. Her recorder was already running. Arrived at Black Hollow, locals avoid this tree due to rumors of madness and death. No sign of danger so far. And then, very faintly, the recorder caught it. Iris! She froze, rewound, played again. Iris! A whisper, in her own name. No one was near. Her phone had no signal. She chalked it up to imagination, shook it off, and took a few photos. But her lens kept fogging. The closer she got to the trunk, the harder her heart pounded, as if her body was reacting to something her mind couldn't comprehend. That night, she reviewed the photos in her rented cottage. All but one were blurry. The last, however, showed something impossible. Her standing next to the tree, but with her back to the camera, even though she had been alone. The figure's face was turned slightly, not fully visible, but the mouth was open, wide and toothless, as though screaming. She deleted the photo, but it returned the next morning. Worse, it had changed. Now the figure in the photo faced the camera fully, its head tilted, mouth still gaping. Her own face, but pale and rotting, with empty black holes where eyes should be. Iris tried everything, wiping the card, formatting it, using a new phone. The photo came back. Every time. She drove into the village the next day, rattled. She asked questions, probed about the tree, but most villagers shut their doors when she mentioned it. One old woman finally agreed to speak, in whispers, with trembling fingers clutching a rosary. They planted it wrong, the woman said. It's not from here. Something's inside it, something that wants. Wants what? Iris asked. The woman stared into space. To be you. That night, Iris dreamed of bark splitting open and something slick and white crawling out, eyeless, mouth stretching ear to ear, bones cracking as it imitated her shape. She woke screaming, and the next night, she didn't sleep at all, because now the whispers came inside. Not from outside the window, not from her recorder, but from behind her, under the bed, inside the closet. They spoke her name in a dozen voices, some hers, some of others, and they promised her things. You'll never be alone again, one hissed. We see you, said another. Her hair began falling out in clumps. Her eyes grew bloodshot. Mirrors warped her reflection. Always smiling, always watching. She decided to leave. But when she drove toward the village border, the road looped endlessly. No matter how far she went, she always returned to the whisper tree, as if the town had folded into itself, trapping her like a fly in amber. On the seventh day, she gave up, and she went back to the tree. It stood exactly as before, but now its trunk pulsed slowly, breathing, waiting. She approached, barefoot and disheveled, camera hanging limply from one hand. The whispers rose around her like a choir. Almost ready, just one more step. As she touched the bark, it split with a wet sound. A black, clawed hand emerged, followed by a head, her head, smooth, glossy, and eyeless. It opened its mouth, and her own scream came out. She backed away, but too late. The thing reached into her chest, and she felt herself unravel. She watched as it stepped out in her skin, perfectly shaped, perfectly her. It smiled, picked up her recorder, and walked away, humming. She tried to scream, but had no mouth, tried to move, but had no limbs. Now she was the tree. Her body gone, her thoughts stuck in the wood, warped into sighs and moans. And still, she whispered, every night a little louder. They say if you camp near Black Hollow Woods, you'll hear a soft voice calling your name, even if no one else is around. It'll sound just like someone you love, or someone you lost. If you answer it, you'll never be heard from again, because the whisper tree never stops calling, and it's always hungry for a new voice. The basement door. No one wanted to buy the Crowley house. For 30 years it sat empty, its paint peeling, windows boarded, and the wild ivy swallowing its edges like nature trying to erase its existence. There were stories, of course. Every town has them. But this house? The whispers started long before it was abandoned. Don't knock on the basement door. Children would dare each other. Something knocks back, they'd say. So when Ethan, a 29-year-old furniture restorer from Chicago, bought the house for less than the price of his car, the town watched in uneasy silence. It's just a house, Ethan told himself as he pulled into the cracked driveway. The air felt thicker here, the trees pressing in close, the birds absent. Still, he had work to do. His plan was simple. Fix it up, flip it, and move on. The first week went smoothly. He scrubbed mold off the walls, cleared old furniture, and even found antique picture frames worth a small fortune. But there was one part of the house he avoided, the basement. Its door was oddly placed, half hidden behind the pantry, as if someone had tried to forget it. Thick oak with 6 metal bolts, no light switch inside. Just a steep flight of stairs descending into a dark that never felt empty. The previous owner had sealed the door shut with iron nails and handwritten warnings. Ethan removed them on day 2, rolled his eyes at the "Do Not Open" scrawled in red marker, and told himself he'd get to it eventually. But every night he heard it, a thump, then a slow drag, then a knock. 3 knocks, always between 3:12 and 3:15 a.m. The first few nights he blamed the plumbing or rats, but then came the whisper, soft, wet, right by his ear. "Down here." He jolted awake, heart pounding. No one in the room, no open windows, just that door, always that door. On the 6th night, he set up a camera in the kitchen facing the basement. He let it run overnight. The footage showed nothing at first. Then, at exactly 3:13, the door handle twisted, slowly, precisely. No one opened it, but something on the other side tried to. He should have left, but curiosity is a cruel master. On the 9th day, he stood before the door, crowbar in hand. His flashlight flickered. The house was dead quiet. He unbolted the final latch and pulled. The door creaked open. The air rushed out like a sigh, smelling of mildew, rust, and something. Spoiled. He stepped inside. The stairs groaned beneath him. The beam of his flashlight quivered as it revealed a long, unfinished basement with dirt floors and exposed beams. Cobwebs thick as cotton hung from the ceiling. But what made Ethan stop was the circle, in the center of the room, drawn in chalk, symbols he didn't recognize, blackened candles at each corner, and in the middle a wooden chair with restraints, leather cuffs, dried blood. He turned, suddenly cold. That's when he noticed the writing on the wall. "If you see yourself, run." He backed up, heart hammering. A mirror leaned against the far wall, half covered in a white sheet. Something moved behind the cloth, not quickly, slowly, like someone shifting in their seat. His light landed on the mirror, but the reflection wasn't his. It was him, but not. The face was twisted, skin gray and sagging. The eyes were completely black with a smile far too wide. Ethan stared, frozen. Then the reflection moved. It raised a hand, slowly, deliberately, and waved. Ethan bolted. He scrambled up the stairs, slammed the door shut, and rebolted every lock, every latch. He didn't sleep that night. He couldn't. Not with the sound of scratching on the other side. Like long fingernails on wood. At 3:13, it knocked again. 3 knocks. The next day, he called a priest. The man didn't even enter the house. He stood on the porch, eyes fixed on the windowless basement wall, and said, "You let it see you. That's enough." "What does it want?" Ethan asked. The priest shook his head. "Not what? Who? That night, Ethan drank, tried to forget, but when he stumbled to bed, the hallway lights turned off by themselves. And in the faint reflection of the TV screen, he saw the mirror, standing in the corner of the room, waiting. He smashed the TV. When the screen cracked, so did the mirror. But from inside, something pounded on the inside of the glass. The mirror appeared in every room after that. No matter where he went, shiny surfaces warped. The thing mimicked him, his clothes, his voice, but never quite right, like a puppet made of meat and memory. It started whispering all day now. "You're not real. I'm better. I'm coming. Let me in." He broke every mirror, every screen, every reflective surface. But the thing didn't need glass anymore. It had his face, his name, his thoughts. Ethan stopped eating, stopped calling anyone. Who would believe him? On the 15th night, he sat in the kitchen, staring at the basement door. Something behind it was breathing. He set up his camera again, and at 3:13 a.m., the door opened by itself. The camera cut to static. The footage was discovered by police after neighbors complained of a horrible smell. They found Ethan's house completely empty. No body. No signs of struggle. But the basement was bricked shut from the inside. And the last few seconds of his camera showed a reflection, just a flicker, of a man with Ethan's face, smiling too wide, waving goodbye. They say the Crowley house is still empty. But if you walk past it on a quiet night and listen near the foundation, you might hear it. 3 knocks. And if you see yourself in a window when no one else is home, don't wave back. The room that wasn't there. For the first 3 days, Alex thought the house was perfect. A 2-story colonial on the outskirts of Maine, nestled between whispering pines and a stone's throw from a quiet lake. After years of apartment living, it was a dream come true. The house had charm, Wood-paneled walls, a creaky staircase, even an old grandfather clock that chimed faintly every hour. He was still unpacking when he noticed something strange. The hallway upstairs had 4 doors: his bedroom, a guest room, a bathroom, and a linen closet. Or so he thought. Because one morning, as he walked toward the stairs, he found a 5th door. It was on the left wall, just before the closet, unpainted, handle rusted. The kind of door you'd expect to find in an old basement, not an upper hallway. He stared at it for several minutes. He swore it wasn't there yesterday. Shrugging it off, he turned the knob, locked. That night, he walked the hallway again, half expecting it to be gone. It wasn't. And this time, the door was slightly open. The room beyond was pitch black. He flipped the hall switch. No light entered the room. He leaned in, squinting. It was a small space, maybe 10 by 10, and something dark in the center. A chair. Wooden, facing the far wall. Nothing else. Alex backed away. Maybe it had always been there, hidden behind boxes or a dresser. Maybe the realtor forgot to mention it. But something about the air inside felt stale. Not old, but wrong. Like the difference between a sealed attic and a crypt. The next day, he asked the town building office for floor plans. The woman at the desk smiled and pulled the file. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, hall closet. That's all. No storage room upstairs? Nope. She said. No 5th door either. Alex drove home in silence. That night, the door was wide open. He tried calling friends, sent photos. But when he looked at the pictures afterward, the door wasn't there. Just the blank wall. Even the chair didn't show up. He began hearing noises, soft creaks when no one walked, the faint dragging of something heavy, a knock, once, then twice. Then silence, always around midnight. He sealed the door with duct tape. It tore loose the next morning. He pushed a dresser in front of it. It was moved 2 feet sideways the next day. Finally, he bought a padlock and chain, drilled it into the frame. That night, he woke to the sound of the chain clanking against the wall. The door was vibrating, gently, steadily, as if something was pressing from the other side. Alex sat up all night with a knife in hand, staring at it. In the early hours, it stopped. The chain hung still. The next evening, he heard breathing. Not his, deep and slow, like someone exhaling near his ear. But when he turned around, nothing. Then the dreams started. In them, he stood inside the black room, facing the chair. But someone sat in it now. Or rather, something. A man-shaped figure, featureless, skin gray and paper-thin. No eyes, no mouth, just sitting, waiting. When he tried to leave, the room grew longer. The door moved farther away with every step. He always woke up screaming before reaching it. By the 3rd week, the chair was no longer empty in real life either. He opened the door once, just to check, and saw the outline of a body sitting still, facing away. He slammed the door shut, nailed it shut this time. That night, the nails ended up scattered on the floor. The door creaked open on its own. The chair was empty again. Alex began losing time, waking up in the hallway. Once, he found himself standing in the black room without knowing how he got there. His fingernails were torn and bloody from scratching at the inside of the door. He moved into the living room, refused to go upstairs. But the door followed him. Now it appeared at the bottom of the stairs. He tried leaving the house, but the road outside kept looping back. No matter which direction he drove, he always returned to his driveway, as if the world outside the house had collapsed into itself. He screamed at neighbors, called police. No one came. No one answered. He was alone, except for the door, except for the chair. The man-shaped thing began appearing elsewhere, in mirrors, in shadows, sometimes behind him when he turned around, always out of reach, always watching. One night, he found himself back in the room, fully awake this time. The figure in the chair stood. It turned, and for the first time, Alex saw its face. It was his, but melted, hollow, lips stitched shut, eyes gouged out, and it smiled. It stepped forward, arms outstretched. He tried to scream, but nothing came out. 3 days later, the house was listed for sale again. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, recently updated, quiet neighborhood. No mention of the 5th door, no mention of Alex. When a new family moved in, the little girl asked her mom, "Why is there a door in the hallway with a chair inside?" Her mom frowned. "What door?" But when she looked, there it was. Open, and inside, a chair, facing the far wall, waiting.